Hi everyone, it's Amanda here with your escape exercise video. We're going to go through the exercises similar to how we do in sessions. I'm going to go through the 6 exercises twice each, 30 seconds at a time. Once to show the seated version, once to show the standing version. So I'll go through everything twice so that you know what to do given your situation, your ability. And then of course afterwards, if you want to rewind or play the whole thing again, if you're more able to do the exercises a second time through, then you can. Alright, so hopefully you've got your water and you've got your decent shoes, you've got your chair to lean on and a bit of space. Let's do the warm-up. Got a little bit of music on for you, just for a little bit of background noise and a bit of motivation as well. So let's start with that little warm-up. Just peeling the feet up and down off the floor. Of course, if you're seated, it's exactly the same. We just want to move the limbs around a little bit. If you're seated, you might want to straighten the leg out a little bit as well, just to get that joint, that knee joint moving, as well as the hips and the ankles. You can also stir the foot around a couple of times in each direction if you're seated. So whether you're seated or standing, let's take this to a toe tap. Stretch the leg forwards, tap the toe to the floor, stretching out through the muscles down the front of the shin and the ankle joint. As always, if you're standing especially, tummy in, shoulders back. Use your core muscles for balance and support. We'll take this to the heel dig then. Dig the heel into the floor, tip the toes up. That's it, just from side to side, and of course it's the same if you're in your chair. Simply trying to loosen up, lift the heart rate a fraction, get the blood circulating around the joints and the muscles. Okay, so if you're seated, you might want to reach over to the side, just to stretch through the waist, down the side of the body. If you're standing, you might want to twist from side to side like so. So if you prefer, just twist the upper body round to loosen up. There we go. Okay then. Folding forwards, hands to the thigh for a little bit of support. Tuck the tummy in, drop the chin to the chest. Fold yourself forward as far as you feel is suitable for you. If you're standing, you can let those arms hang. That will allow the shoulders to stretch out as well. If the back of the knees feel too tight, just soften them a fraction. But the main focus is to stretch through the spine. When you come up, do so slowly, so as not to go dizzy. And then we'll stretch the chest. Take the hands out, puff the chest forwards. Some of you might be able to take the hands together and lift them up. Simply to stretch across the front of the body and down the arms. Okay, releasing the arms. Give those arms a little shake and loosen out through the shoulders, rolling backwards and forwards. And then if you wish, you can just turn the head slowly from one side to the other side to loosen and stretch the neck. Okay, then finally, seated, you can tap each leg out to the side. Otherwise, if you're standing, a little bit of dad dancing. Step and touch for me, step and touch. Okay, so the first exercise is calf raises. So if you're seated, you're lifting those calves, the heels, sorry, up and down off the floor. Okay, 30 seconds here. If you want, you can press into the thighs a little bit to make that a little more challenging, but push the feet, the balls of the feet down into the floor and lift those heels. We're concentrating on the calf muscle, obviously, behind the leg. Keep your posture tall even if you are seated. Of course, if you're standing, it's exactly the same. We've got 5 seconds here. There we go, there's your 30 seconds. Little rest, kick the legs out if you need to, especially if those calves feel a little on the tight side. This is your standing version with the support of the chair if you want. If not, fold the arms. So tummy in, shoulders back. This is what I call your kettle boiling exercise. A little bit of a stretch through the legs, working those calves while you're waiting for the kettle to boil, or waiting in the queue at the chemist, or something like that. So 5 seconds left here. Then we've got the sit to stand or the squats. There we go. So I'll do the sit to stand first of all. Back of the knees quite close to the chair, and you simply sit down and stand back up again. Pushing the heels into the floor, squeeze your bottom at the top. I'm just going to lower my chair a little bit. If you find your chair is too low, put a cushion on it so you don't have to go quite so low down. And for those who are a little bit more or less able, you can just push into the legs and semi-stand. If that's more suitable for you, if that's an appropriate level for you, absolutely fine. Just a semi-stand, leaning into the legs, if that's suitable. Alternatively, for the stronger ones, there are squats. So feet are about hip distance apart, tummy in, and your bottom sits back. Notice how the knees do not go forwards. So if I was to look down, each time I squat, I do not lose sight of my toes. For instance, this is wrong. If I lose sight of my toes and the knees go forward, you're not going to do nice things to your knees. You must sit your bottom back, press the heels into the floor, squeeze your bottom at the top. 3 more seconds here. And there we go. Okay, so now we've got side leg raises, or the side tap if you prefer to sit. So you're sitting and each leg goes out to the side. So that's your seated version. You'll do a minute of that. Those who are standing, of course you're going to do 30 seconds on one side, 30 seconds on the other. Standing nice and tall, take the legs slowly and smoothly out to the side and back. Okay, tummy in, shoulders back. So obviously I'm doing both levels. You choose the level that suits you. So you don't have to come to standing when I do. You can stay with the seated exercise while I'm doing the standing one, of course. I'm just making sure that I'm getting you to know what options you have, seated or standing. So those that are standing, you're going to swap sides. Those that are seated, a little rest, and then off we go again. Other side, taking the leg out and back in, slowly. Notice how my torso isn't moving. Tummy muscles are in to support. That standing knee should be slightly soft. That's it, keep the shoulders back. We've got 10 seconds left here. Only working through that hip and outer thigh. 3, 2, and 1. Okay. The next move are the knee raises. So this is going to challenge the hips somewhat. Your seated version and your standing version is pretty much the same. Lifting those feet up off the floor, working through the core. Now for some, the seated version really actually quite challenging on your hips. Okay? But it does depend on how stable you are once you're standing. So you choose the level that's best for you. We've got 10 seconds left here. And again, this is another simple exercise that you could almost do anywhere. Watching the telly, just get those hips moving a little bit so they don't get stiff. And then the standing version, of course, you can use a chair for support. 30 seconds, off we go. You can relax your arms down by your sides, or you can cross the arms over the chest. Brings balance into play, a little bit more tricky possibly. Tummy muscles switched on all the way through. We're halfway through with this one. After this one we've got the back kicks, or sitting into the floor. And rest. Okay, so your seated version, which I'll quickly show you. Not that you can see much, to be honest, but think of my heels. I'm pressing my heels down into the floor, which is forcing all the muscles up the back of the legs to squeeze. So imagine there's a little button underneath your heel and you're pressing that button. Okay, that's your seated version. You're going to do roughly a minute of that, whilst those that want to stand, you're nudging back with your heel. Off we go. So pretend that the fridge door is just behind you and you're just gently nudging it back. It's not a full-on powerful kick, it's just a nudge. Bottom squeezing each time. Now with this one, if you do feel this in your lower back, straighten the leg instead. Don't use a bent leg. And if it's still aggravating your back, please do sit down instead and do the heel press. Okay, those that are standing, I'd like you to swap over. If you're seated, have a little rest maybe, and off we go. Again, a little nudge back with that heel. Keep it slow and controlled. Squeeze your bottom. As always, when we're on one leg, try and soften that standing knee if you can. Try not to lock the knee backwards. So we've just gone halfway on this side. Now the last one we have is balance. Appreciate that not everyone is able to stand stable. So if you're going to find that the police walk or standing on one leg is going to be too much, can I recommend that instead you do leg extension. Just alternate the legs, firing up the muscles, the front of the legs and around the kneecap. Okay, so that's your alternative if you prefer not to stand at all. Okay. Those that want to stand, two choices: police walk, heel to toe, tummy muscles in. That's your first option. We'll do 30 seconds of that. If you feel you're quite stable with your police walk, try coming up onto the balls of the feet. And then if you're still stable, wave the arms around. Obviously if you're not stable, then keep it low and just work on that balance. You can do one leg instead, which I'll show you next. Okay, so if you're happy with the police walk, just put the other foot in front and do exactly the same. Alternatively, those who are content and happy to be on one leg, I'm just going to rest my other foot on top, or you can take the foot to the shin, up to you. But standing on one leg, tummy muscles in, eyes focused forwards, that will always help your balance. But the same as with the police walk, if you want to make things more difficult, you can wave the arms around. I wouldn't suggest coming up onto the ball of the foot really. Just wave the arms around, or for the stronger, more confident ones, you can turn the head from one side to the other. As you can see, it does challenge your balance a lot more. All sorts of balances you can do. You don't have to just do this one. So that's the whole routine. If you feel capable and you've got the time, rewind back to the beginning. Don't do the warm-up again, obviously. Just start from those calf raises and choose whether you want to do the seated or the standing version. You can go through it again and again if you want. Otherwise, I'm going to take you now into the cool down. I'll pop the timer down here. The cool down just aims to flush out the toxins through the body, loosen out through the muscles and the joints. It's the same as the warm-up simply. Pointing the toes forwards this time. We keep the warm-up and the cool down exactly the same so that you can remember it easily. It just becomes second nature. If you just want to do a little bit of movement, a little bit of activity, you've got a spare 5 minutes, you can just do this little short warm-up and cool down routine. Taking it to the heel dig. As always, you can do all of these seated if you prefer as well. The only difference with the warm-up and the cool down is that with the cool down we do the stretches at the end. We don't do the stretches during the warm-up. So if you're going to go into more exercise, don't do the stretches at the beginning, just do them right at the very end. Okay, standing still and either twisting from the waist, loosen out through the middle. Alternatively, you can always reach to the side, whichever suits you better. That's it. Folding forwards then, hands to the thighs, tuck your chin, tummy in, Release the arms if you want to. Of course you can bend the knees, if the back of the legs feel too tight. Slowly coming upwards. Take the hands behind, off the chest forwards. Maybe take the hands, if that suits. That's it. And release, shake those arms out, loosen out through the tension, rolling the shoulders a couple of times back and a couple of times forwards. So in the warm up here we would go into those side steps, but for the cool down we're not going to do the side steps, we're going to stretch. So the first stretch, which isn't easy for some people, you hold on to the foot or your shoe or your trouser maybe to hold the leg in the air, knee points to the floor, push the hips forwards to feel the stretch down the front of the thigh. 10 seconds on each side. Now for some that's just not suitable, so what I'd recommend is stand away from a chair but still have some support, maybe a table or a wall. Standing away from the chair, just put the foot on the chair behind you and allow yourself to push that foot back so the knee goes slightly behind you, and that'll open up through the hip and stretch a little down through the front of the thigh. As I said, 10 seconds on each side. Hopefully you've done both sides already. And we'll do the hamstring stretch. For those who are already standing, hamstring stretch where you straighten the front leg and bend the back leg. That's your standing version. Always remember to keep your head above your heart, stick your bottom out, stick your toes up and you'll feel that stretch down the back of the leg. Slightly easier version though, you sit towards the front of your seat. It's pretty much the same though. You straighten the leg you want to stretch, leaning over slightly, hand to the thigh, not the knee. Again, toes tipped up, heel digs into the floor, and that'll stretch down the back of the leg. Okay, and release. So hopefully that's been useful for you all, and I'll see you in class soon. Take care. Bye bye.